Hello, my name is Ruth Slotnick, and I'm the Director of Assessment at Bridgewater State University. And I'm joined today by Dr. Diane Kelly-Riley, who is an Associate Professor of English and Associate Dean for Research and Faculty Affairs at University of Idaho. Together, we co-chair the Grand Challenges in Assessment Group, using assessment findings to direct immediate pedagogical improvements. Our process of defining our approach for pedagogical practices and using assessment data to improve student learning was twofold. First, we felt it prudent to deconstruct the challenges text as written in the original call to action, which you can find on the Grand Challenges in Assessment website, to see what was missing and what resonated with our own lived experiences. And second, we wanted to make sure that our team contained a balanced or even over-representation of faculty, since our topic sits predominantly in the looking at classroom data and classroom-based assessment data to make immediate improvements of student learning. Our analysis resulted in the formation of 4 subtopic groups, whose job is to examine the current literature addressing their topic and the intersection of and capacity of technology to support and facilitate change related to their identified topic. Group 1 is addressing the framework of assessment and accountability. Group 2 is examining pedagogical practices in learning and assessment. Group 3 is looking at socio-cognitive factors and assessment. And Group 4 is examining ways to assess learning over time. We hope that the combination of faculty and assessment professionals, along with our student affairs and teaching and learning colleagues, mixed together, is a model of integrated relationships between these powerful partners to guide classroom and program-based student success. A rather ambitious outreach effort allowed us to have a team of 27 members reflecting a range of institutional types, including community colleges and private institutions throughout the CHIA regions, as well as an inclusion of an international perspective in the pedagogy group. While we have an overrepresentation of English faculty, these faculty are adept at working across disciplinary conventions and pedagogical practices to assess student learning. Our group contains seasoned scholars, mid and entry-level faculty, and assessment professionals from both academic and student affairs. All members have a vested interest in the topic of pedagogy and assessment and have been working diligently to prepare for today's talk. Where we lack significant representation in our subtopic groups from members, we will leverage the perspectives and expertise across the groups to critique and applaud each other's work. We fervently believe we have a unique opportunity to expand the literature on this topic by offering new strategies, models, and methods of assessment and accountability that use relevant findings to make immediate pedagogical change or otherwise that benefit students currently in the system. I would now like to hand the presentation over to Diane, who will take you through our directions.
Hi, I'm Diane Kelly-Riley. I'm Associate Professor of English and Associate Dean for Research and Faculty Affairs for the College of Letters, Arts, and Social Science at the University of Idaho. And I'm going to talk about our team's directions and the questions that we have. So I'm going to share my screen here with you and then get my PowerPoint presentation going to talk about our directions. But the things that are important to us is that we're interested in trying to change the old model of assessment. And by that, we mean the structure in which departments get together at the end of each semester and they think about the kinds of materials that they may or may not have collected, to take a look at the kinds of things that they're trying to evaluate with their students. In this old model of assessment, we have a lot of faculty who are really divorced from the assessment experience. Also, students and the things that they're producing in their classes are also really disconnected from the classroom experience. And so we're trying to integrate something called the just-in-time assessment approaches in meaningful ways that are embedded within instructional settings. And so that means that we are trying to look at ways that we can evaluate materials that students are producing in classes that are directly aligned and tied to assessment outcomes and whatnot. And that also presents several challenges for faculty, because that places that responsibility more squarely on an instructional faculty member who is going to be teaching in a range of circumstances, from circumstances that are more secure and more stable to circumstances that are contingent and are really fluid. And so one of the things that we're trying to do with our directions is to also capture the lived experiences of faculty and students, and in terms of what we're asking students to learn, where they're learning that, where we assess that learning, and trying to identify things that are beyond the classroom setting that might influence this context. And so that involves, again, looking at the types of faculty who are teaching our courses, the types of manners in which they're teaching. And this particular pandemic has really put those things into sharp relief, where we're really considering more squarely the delivery of instruction, what it means to be providing instruction to students where we can't meet face-to-face, where we might have to have these high flex models of instruction or online modes of learning. We're also looking at a more diverse student population. So more and more as the time goes on, our nation is becoming much more diverse, and that diversity in terms of race, socioeconomic status, and linguistic background is showing up more in our classroom settings. And so how are we evaluating these students in the work that they're doing, and how can we use these just-in-time assessment models to provide those students formative feedback to their performance, but then also yield results that allow us to have a good sense of where we're going with our curricular and assessment programs. We're also interested in trying to capture the full range of the ways in which students are learning. And so a lot of times, I think in the past, research institutions tended to be the sites of study. They were predominantly the sites of study. And so that meant that we weren't getting really good information from community colleges or regional universities or historically Black colleges and universities or Hispanic serving institutions, or even our liberal arts colleges, again, if they don't have an emphasis on research. And so with our group in particular, we have a rather large group. And so we're trying to make sure that we're capturing the full range of institution types where students are attending post-secondary study. And then I think some of the things also that this pandemic has brought into sharp relief are issues related to broader factors that influence our context. And so, no longer, and I'm not sure that we really ever did, do we have a group of people who are attending post-secondary study who are simply 18 to 22 years old. We have a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different ages, with a lot of different demands on them, both in terms of family and work expectations, who are attending post-secondary study. And so again, in terms of how we use these just-in-time assessment approaches, we really are taking into account the broader experiences and factors that would play into these circumstances. And so we're really excited and interested to see what these kinds of considerations result in. And we find it really refreshing with the expertise that we're having from our group members. So next I want to move on to our questions. And we've got four main questions here. Um, Again, the shift in frameworks about sort of our old model of assessment to a just-in-time assessment really makes us rethink what we meant by assessment. I think it goes from those frameworks of shifting from kind of viewing assessment as summative to one that is really more formative. And what does that mean in terms of how we develop those plans, but then also what we're going to get and then how we use that information. And we really do think that there are some serious implications, some which are really exciting, but then some that are going to have some real consequences for trying to implement these quote unquote just-in-time assessments across our institution types. It probably also comes down to a resource issue in terms of the resources and support we can provide to faculty and the types of resources needed for these ongoing assessment kinds of things. And that also comes into account here with our third question about what kinds of resources are needed to support these just-in-time assessments on the classroom level. Again, with that responsibility falling more to the faculty member. So we have a diverse instructional core, and then we also have a diverse institutional context, and we have diverse learners who are coming in to post-secondary settings. And then finally, technology is something that undergirds all of these issues. And so how can we meaningfully utilize technology? So it's not simply a driver of kind of utilitarian or punitive surveillance kind of checklisting assessment approaches, but one that really helps us realize the full potential and full capacity in these kinds of assessment processes. And technology is certainly something that has the potential to enable that. It also has the potential to be something that really limits and reduces the possibilities with those assessments. So all of those questions are things that we are interested in looking at and thinking about. And you're welcome to look and dive in a bit deeper to our current white paper, which you can access via our Google Drive. You can visit https://bit.ly/pedagogy Grand Challenges, and you'll be able to access that more extensive write-up of where our group stands now.